Today I'm joined by Jim Pryor, who is the Chief Executive of global branding consultancy, The Partners. Jim, thanks for being with me today. Let's start with this. Warren Buffett says it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. What role does the board have in that relationship?
Well, a very, very important role, and brand and reputation is very much a boardroom issue, and not just to be reactive in situations where problems occur and that reputation is under threat, but I think even more importantly to be proactive in helping to drive a positive reputation of an organization, to push it forward, to drive value into the organization, really fundamentally for the board to understand on what basis that organization wants to build its reputation in the market so that its reputation is as strong as possible, and in the event that negative situations do arise, they're already building enough reputational credit to be able to survive and last through that.
Let's look at a couple of things that have come up. You've got Nike, Starbucks, Apple with Foxconn, BP with the oil spill. If you're a board member on any of those boards, what's your role there?
Well, your role, I think, very importantly, is to understand on what basis you need to be able to make decisions, what questions you need to ask about the decisions that are being made, and to understand really what the parameters are on which those decisions are made. So importantly, in the case of, for example, Nike and Lance Armstrong, it's not a question of, well, was that a good thing or a bad thing, but really to understand, what are the fundamentals of the Nike brand and what is our reputation built that allow us to make the decisions about when is the appropriate time to act or not.
Well, speed is an issue, isn't it? Because, again, looking at Nike, you've got Lance Armstrong. We've known for some time that there was an issue. I think the problem that they had in some ways was the speed at which they moved, or lack of movement.
Well, in hindsight, clearly they could have moved a lot more quickly, and certainly there's some reputational damage that one could argue results from that lack of speed, which is a factor. On the other hand, what we don't want boards to do is to make knee-jerk reactions to things. We don't want boards to be overreacting to situations before all the evidence is gathered, or sometimes reacting to things that may not be so significant to the organisation. So not everything that might be bad is necessarily bad if it's not something that's fundamentally important to the organisation's reputation.
I mean, as a board member, I'm constantly having to ask myself about, where I am in that relationship, sort of hands-on without being hands-in and micromanaging. And so perhaps one thing that I wonder about is, what's my role? I mean, I suppose to a certain extent I think of it as being true north, so asking the hard questions and remembering what the mission is. But what can I do then as a board member?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. The first thing I would say is that what boards often make, or board members often make the mistake of doing, is focusing too much on generics rather than specifics. So it's not enough, for example, just to say we want an organisation that's known for great quality or great customer service. I think boards need to ask the questions about what specifically does that mean, what kind of quality, what kind of service, and understand better how that's going to be delivered. I think the other thing to bear in mind is that the role of a board is very much to provide the kind of external conscience or point of view of an organisation, and actually that's very true of brands too. Brands are increasingly owned not by the organisation but by the audience, by the market, and particularly in today's social media world where information spreads and dialogue spreads so clearly.
Well, the market is global, isn't it?
The market is global. People will exchange their points of view, will form their opinions, whether or not the organisation helps them to do that. So an important role that I think board members can play in this is to be the voice of the market. Always ask the question, what does the market think?
When we think about strong brands, a lot of them are coming from autocratic places. You think about Nike and Phil Knight. You associate the man with the place. You think about Starbucks, or you think about
Steve Jobs and Apple.
Steve Jobs, perfect example. That's a place where one man was in charge, and in this case it was a man. And so is that also then counter to what we think of as good corporate governance?
Well, I think it's a very good question. It's perhaps a coincidence rather than necessarily a conflict. I think it's certainly true with brands and anything around reputation that it benefits from having a very clear, single-minded point of view about what that should be. It's not to the benefit of a brand or an organisation to have many different competing strategies or points of view about what it should stand for, nor is it advantageous to have a lot of different people all trying to pursue their own goals and ambitions. I'm not sure that that's impossible to achieve within anything other than an autocratic organization. But I think it does put a responsibility on the board, for example, to push for that, to look for clarity, to look for distinctiveness in the way that that brand or that reputation is defined.
So a diverse board, culturally diverse board, true north board, asking hard questions, keeping an eye externally, holds strong brand reputation.
Yes, take it seriously. Take it as a boardroom issue and get specific about what it means. There's very often a perception, I think, that the way that value is driven in organizations is through hard metrics like shareholder value, share prices, etc. But actually, the importance of brand or the role of brand and reputation in influencing share prices is, of course, enormous. Billion-dollar swings can happen on the stock market as a result of these decisions. So it absolutely must be a boardroom issue.
Jim, thanks so much.
Thank you.